There you go, man. Let's get it popping.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, he made it. He made it, y'all. He made it. Let's go. All right, man. So look, man, this is my first interview, and I want to thank you for being here for the Mental Wealth Academy, man. This is about normalizing therapy, emotional literacy, as well as mental wellness, as I was talking about. But we're doing that through just conversation as well. So also, we want to highlight people that are authors, mental health advocates, people that are doing positive things within the community, or people who just have redemption and now looking for, a new outlet to speak and talk about things they're doing within their own life and own community and so forth. And man, I've known you for a few years. I know you have been writing and doing a lot of dope things in terms of you being an author and a writer. I got your book right here, Life's Evening Sun, for everyone. If you don't know, this is one of Mr. Ricketts' three-part trilogy, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, three-part trilogy that he's writing. And so shout out to the graphic designer as well on this. This is fire. All right, so without further ado, man, let me get to a couple of questions that I got waiting for you, man. So, hey, so my first question, um, what got you into being an author?
And growing up, I always had the love to write, and so what really inspired me was when I was in high school. I met a girl. High school was just a multitude of females. So there was a talent show coming up,
Hmm.
and the girl that I was interested in, she was doing the talent show. Like she was going to singing. So my friend told me, "Hey, you should go and check her out. I heard she's really good." But I also knew that I was a writer. I wanted to recite my poem.
Hmm.
So I also wanted to go and see her. So I joined in on the poetry, the talent show. I signed my name up. So when the talent show came up, everybody every day after school we had practice, either reciting our poem, singing, just doing the skills we had to practice. So when it's time to go up there,
Hmm.
we're not going up there looking crazy, just knowing what we're going to say or do. So the day finally came, talent show. She was the very first one to go up. She blew the house down. Her
Hmm.
voice was great. So then I was the fifth person to go up. So I recited a poem. The poem was called If Love Believe It's Made of Truth.
Mm.
Basically, the poem is about a man who believes he's in love,
Mm.
but people around him, family and friends, are saying he's not really in love. He's just more in lust with the woman. And throughout the poem, he defends himself as to why he believes he's in love with this girl.
Uh, how old were you when you wrote this poem?
High school, I was about uh 16 years old.
All right, that was deep. That
Yeah.
was deep. Mhm.
Yeah. So people clapped, they cheered. After everything was over, they had like a snack lunch for us. So we was all got our food, sitting down talking, and I saw her talking to her friends. I went over to her and I said, I enjoyed I enjoyed your voice. She said, I loved your poem too. Then she asked me, was the poem about me or I just made it up? I said, no, it was about me, but some parts were made up, but most of it was about me. She said, so do you still believe that love is true? Do people still like talk in your ear saying you're not in love? I said, yeah, that's in general. When somebody believes they're in love, some people will say, no, you're not. You think you are. You don't know what love is. Probably because of
Mhm.
your age, or probably because you've been in love too
Mhm.
many times. You're confused.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, uh, man, so you did what brothers, all the brothers do. You did something, because You was basically looking for some love. You had a little crush on a woman. You liked her. You wanted to impress her, and that's how you embarked on your journey to get into becoming an author.
Correct.
Okay, okay, man. All right. So look, my next question to you, man. I've known you for a while, and we talk, heavy at times about life, man, in general. Tell me, is this book? And first and foremost, congrats on your engagement. I do want to say that. Congrats on your engagement, and you got a lovely fiance who at times tries to bully me. Um, but that's neither here nor there. You know what I mean? But is this book based on your real life?
Parts of it, yes. Parts of it is based on my real life. Other portion is made up, but most of it is about my life.
Hmm.
Yes,
Okay. What parts would you say is more so based on your life?
I would say the part about um, the the child. You
Hmm.
know, um, that's that's real. Even though the child didn't grow up, nothing like that, but the
Yeah.
child, that's real. Um, the part about my grandfather passed
Hmm.
away, that's real.
Hmm. That's close to the end of the book.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
The part of also what's real is a part um about life's evening sun as to why the title the way it is. My grandfather told me about life's evening sun when the day when sun sets, the day is done. The
Hmm.
new day a new day begins. Always leave anything that's negative in the past. Don't bring it into the new day.
Mm.
So the title of it of my book just symbolizes what my grandfather used to tell me about life's evening sun. And there's some parts about high school that's also in there. That's also about my life as
Yeah.
well.
That's dope, man. Look, I'm not gonna lie. This book is it's like very poetic. Like when I'm reading it, it's just a poem. It's to me, it's like one big poem, right? It's like the sun sets and the hue is glowing on the grass, and then like the whole thing is very poetic. Um, and I like that. I like that vibe. I like the fact that when you read it, if you are into more of like, because they got them crime novels
Yeah.
out there, right? But this book takes more of a space of like very poetic. Um, it talks about colors and things of that nature, but it's also in a space of like it's more emotional. It's way more emotional than you think. Like it doesn't. It's not like plain and into the point of like, well, she walked outside. Mikey had 3 grams on him, and he sold it, and then the police pulled up. He got arrested, and then they was love. It's very much like you are being taken to like a fantasy like kind of space. Explain this to me, man. How did you get the names? Because we got Ezra, we got Jude, we got Esther. Very like different names than we would find like it's not Shania, it isn't Amia, it's not Annalise, so what even Shakina, what inspired the names?
To go back to what you said about being very like poetic. My whole background of writing is just being a poet. So yeah, there are a lot of instances of poems being intertwined with the actual narration or the chapter
Mhm.
of it. Um, I like it. I got the inspiration. I read not read. I saw the movie For Colored Girls by Tyler Perry, and
Mhm.
Tyler Perry did something in the movie that was very different. I said, "Oh my gosh!" So anytime like two characters will talk in the movie, they will talk normal, like a normal conversation, and then the conversation will intertwine with like a poem verse. And I said that was different.
Mhm.
So I took that inspiration and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and I infused that into my book. And as
Mhm.
for the names, biblical. My background is church. Growing up in
Mhm.
church, my siblings, we were brought up in church, born in the church, and Jude. from the Bible itself: Esther,
Come on
Ezra,
now. Hmm.
Nehemiah, Jude, Zephaniah, all from the all biblical names.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, my brother's name Hezekiah, right? And my father is named David, and I mean my uncle's named David, and my aunt is named Ruth, and my uncle is named June, right? Or Isaac. Sorry, Isaac. So I understand, man. That's dope that you did that, man. You know, you intertwined all of those and put them all together. So that's a that's great, man. Let me ask you this: why in particular did you decide to write this book? This book.
My story needed to be told.
Hmm.
This book is based as a remake from the previous book. I did a book like seen some before, but the publisher and I didn't end on good terms.
Hmm.
I felt the publisher wasn't doing enough for me. As well, I
Hmm.
wasn't doing enough for myself, I will admit, to advertise the book. So
Hmm.
I parted ways with the publisher, and the publisher told me, being that I'm leaving the company, that all the books that I did with the company basically basically going to be like tarnished, like won't be able to publish anymore, which was fine.
Okay.
I said okay. So looking back at it, I reading it over, I saw or read many plot holes that I felt I didn't wasn't good enough, and also because I rushed through the publication process.
Hmm.
I just wanted my books to be published.
Uh,
You know, I'm going to be
so it was like that gratification, real quick. I just want my books to be out there so they can see that I'm doing something,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
But not, but you what you're saying is so. It's just keep going, man. I like what you're saying right now. Keep
yeah,
going.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I said to myself, and when I was told to read it over, just look at any like errors, I didn't. I
Hmm.
just said, nah, just I got it back. Then I would leave it for like a week, and then I gave it back to the publisher without looking it over to see if everything was okay. And then reading it
Hmm.
over after me and the company had a fallout, I said, wow, a lot of plot holes. So I took the time. I looking over the book, every plot hole that I saw, I wrote in the book to say, okay, add this into it, or take this out. And then while doing that, I said to myself, if I take the time, I can do sequels or build more characters into this novel
Hmm.
or novella. It's a short story, so it's more of a novella. So that's what I did. So after a while, I redid the book, basically like a remake.
Hmm.
And now I didn't have a publisher in mind. I fell back on just getting my book published, doing more of working, and then um, I would say a few months back, talking to Kiana, our coworker, she mentioned about getting
Who I'm going to interview soon on her book, by the way. So she's coming up next, but keep going.
yes, I think she's also live as
Hmm.
well.
What's
Mine,
up, Kiana?
and so she mentioned about also getting her book published.
Hmm.
So I said, okay. So I asked her for the publisher's name or then she gave me her Instagram. Wrote to the wrote to her, Ebony, by the way, brilliant woman. You know, so we wrote together, and she told me the process of it. So at the time, I didn't want to jump in right away because of the wedding, getting the funds together. So
Hmm.
I said, thank you for it. Just want to know the process. But as I was getting ready for the venue and the wedding and everything, I was putting money aside to get the first book published. And when I had enough
Hmm.
money, I reached back out to her, Ebony, to do the first publication. And I told her, I didn't want to jump in and say yes and not having the funds to actually publish this book. So then after I I reached back out to her, we got in. She told me the process, what had to be done, the funds, the money that was needed. And I was able to give it to her because of saving up. So I had my publisher, and now a graphic designer.
Hmm.
Once again, Kiana McCord introduced me to her friend, who also a graphic designer as well.
Hmm.
Got in contact with her,
Hmm.
and now the graphic designer and I, we worked. I told her what I wanted the book cover to be,
Yeah.
and she made it come through
Yeah.
with my words, my vision. She brought it to life.
Yeah, I love that, man. There's so many gems that are being discussed right now, and I don't know if they're going over people's heads, man, but a few of them are like, you put money aside, like you were able to, save, right? You
Correct.
didn't just rush, oh, I ain't got the money, I can't do it. No, you took your time. You said, you know what? I gotta save. In the process of you, also saving to get married and put things aside for that, you were able to, that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. Even the ants, they save up and prepare for the winter, right? So you're able to save, man, and you're able to do that through discipline. Another thing you talked about is just like doing things in haste, right? Like we just want our public. A lot of times we just want to see our name out there. We just want people to see us, but it's important to have that emotional regulation. If we're talking about mental health, it's important to have that emotional regulation to be like, yo, hold up. I don't need to rush this process right now. I need to get these things right. So when I am ready to go and I am ready to do what I have to do, because you're not saying you were perfect. You're saying, yo, I messed up like everybody else. And I had to readjust, realign myself, and now I'm going forward. Also, just community. You and Miss McCord, shout out to Miss McCord, by the way. You and her just communicating and talking and spreading that information. She's giving you those gems. She's connecting you with the right people. I like that, man. That's good work. Let me ask you, what emotional or mental health theme comes up for you during the process of writing this book? So, like emotionally, you mentioned the loss of your child at one point, right? Well, the thing with the child, I don't want to share too much. They got to read the book. But for you, what mental health theme comes up for you during the process of writing this book?
Mental health theme, I would say, is depression.
Hmm.
Um,
Talk about that.
so for depression, going into the child, the first, not to give too much away, but the first chapter is in the present, where they're discussing a loss of the child and going back to Eve and son to visit the child memorial, the
Hmm.
gravesite, and the main character Esther doesn't want to go. Too much memories there, but Jude, the other main character, encourages her to go there because he would be by her side.
Hmm.
Um, and that's also when the friction between Jude and Esther happened because of the death of their child. They couldn't overcome that. Also, with my with the character's grandfather,
Hmm.
also uh, dying because of cancer, that was also something to overcome as well for Jude and the rest of his family. The grandfather promised Jude that he would teach him how to tie a tie. The grandfather
Hmm.
did not tell Jude about his sickness, about the cancer.
Right.
Um, and just like that, Jude is standing in the mirror trying to tie a tie that his grandfather promised he would help him with. And in that, Jude begins to question God as to why God took his grandfather away, question his own grandfather as to why he didn't tell him about his sickness. So
Hmm.
um, the mother, the character mother Jude, said to him, "You should never question God. Everything is done for a reason." Which goes back to that would go back to what my mother and dad often say or do say about when somebody dies, a loved one dies, and somebody dies, and you care deeply for them, you question it.
That's right.
I questioned God when my grandmother died, and my mother said to me not to question God. All things are done for a reason,
Hmm.
and that was her own mother. My
Yeah.
so for her to say that to me, it's at the time I didn't understand, of
Right.
course, because I just miss my grandmother, but eventually I did understand. So I felt having that scene was important. most scenes in there, I felt had to really take my time to write out and to really capture as much emotion as I possibly could, the best way I
Yeah.
could, because a lot of themes are in there. You know, love, hurt. You
Yeah.
know, I mentioned.
I mean, you have one part in there where I don't want to. It's Jude is just say her and um, Esther are pretty much at a distance for a minute, and there's another gentleman who comes into play for a second, right?
Yes,
Ezra, and that kind of, I know every play out there at one point in time, sometimes you lose your lady, not lose it just because somebody snatched her. Or it's sometimes you're not doing the right thing. Sometimes you're not being emotionally available. Sometimes you are taking out the life problems and issues. You taking it out on your lady. Sometimes it's not always the man's fault, right? We don't want to just say it's always the man's fault, but sometimes it could be a number of things at times, and things happen where people decide this is not the right time. Let us split apart and go our separate ways. And then sometimes, you fall and you come back together with each other, man. So that's a piece that I would say is something to check out within the story. Let me ask you, man, how has through writing this, how has your mental health been? How has it evolved from writing these books? Because you mentioned depression, you mentioned just the grandfather not being around to teach how to tie a tie, things of that nature. How has your mental health evolved in this process?
um, it had evolved greatly. I, I do want to say I don't get depressed much. Thanks be to God. But when it came to when it came to like certain things about my family members dying or close friends dying,
Hmm.
I do my best to hold it in, either for my parents, my sisters, or friends. But can only take so much. But writing has been my sanctuary. So,
Hmm.
getting all this done. Every time I felt upset or sad, writing has been my sanctuary. In my honest opinion, I feel this remake, this book, this trilogy has been one of the best writings I've ever done because I took the time. I didn't rush it. Even though I wanted to get published, I didn't rush the publication.
Hmm.
I read it over and over and over. Made sure my publisher, once she read it and she sent it back to me, I read it again and again to make sure nothing was out of place. And I realized all that I wrote about just growing up, my childhood life, even high school experience. Some fiction, nonfiction has been helpful to me getting this all out because I've had some good days in high school and not so good days. So writing this book and thinking about my high school experience, it brought up some things. Even with the females I was attracted to at that time
Hmm.
in high school. Like for example, the cover of the book Light Season Sun, Esther, she has like a buzz cut,
Hmm.
short haircut, like what I have.
Hmm.
And now I'm not into that. I don't, my own preference.
Hey, ain't there's no knock on the buzz cut. Some of y'all be looking respectfully. Some of y'all be looking very nice. I just want to say that, but keep going.
Yeah, yeah, but back in high school when I was younger, I used to like it 'cause I thought it was different. And sometimes the females had the parts in in their hair, and I thought that was different, But now, like you say, my own preference, um, I don't really care for it anymore. But I put it as the cover basically to give homage to my younger self, as to what
Mhm.
I was into
Yeah.
back in the high school days.
Okay. I like that, man. Thanks for sharing that and being open and honest, man. A couple more questions, then we're gonna close out. Um, Real quick, what message do you hope young readers take from this?
To be, if young readers, if they're interested in writing or just love to read, I just encourage them to open my book, read my book, and hopefully they can relate or have some kind of idea as to what I'm talking about. I do feel even
Mhm.
though some of my book is fiction, people can relate based on the different topics that I speak on. I
Yeah,
just want people to take away from reading my book this this character Jude, even though his heart was broken after Esther left, even though he went through so much stuff, even though he may be a young adult, young adults can still go through pain and sorrow and still eventually can overcome. It's all about overcoming obstacles.
listen, we see that in middle school a lot.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they get their heart broken in middle school. You're like, you 13 years old. What you know about being in love? But they know way more, right? So too much available for these kids to figure out, and a lot of them are experiencing certain emotions way faster than they are able to process them. And so it's definitely relatable, man. Good continue. My bad.
Yeah, but yeah, that's really about it. Just to overcome and whatever heartbreak they have gone through or will go through,
Hmm.
my book can help them.
Yeah, yeah. I like it, man. Definitely with that, the loss of the child. Um, Definitely with the issue. Glory. I know. Explain glory to me. In
The
the what? Explain glory to me. Just that's a little piece, real quick. I want to talk about. What's up with glory?
the city called Glory. That's a it's a song, a church song. The lyrics go, if you miss me from singing down here and you can't find me nowhere, come on up
Hmm.
to the city called Glory. I'll be
Let's
there.
go.
It's a once again a play on words from my background in church.
Hmm.
You know, so the glory is basically from a song that we sing in church,
Yeah.
and even going to chapter 4 in the garden, chapter 4 where a man's in the garden, and he
Hmm.
tells Jude and Esther
In
about
the
the history.
all white.
Yes,
Okay.
the all white. People question me as to who that man is. um, I want to ask you, Austin, in your own perception, who you think that man is?
Man. So this is what I'm gonna say. I won't be quick. You ever watch the story, The Interview with God?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it's a real. If you never watched it, it's a movie out called The Interview with God. You should check it out. Um, I I thought it was God, right? But it, you tell me, it could also be maybe your grandfather. I don't know. So you tell me.
the the man in the all white. He's more of more of a prophet of God.
Hmm.
Some people asked if he was Jesus,
Hmm.
but yeah, but I leave it more up to the readers and their own interpretation. But I wrote him in the book as a more of a prophet of God, more of a
Okay.
man to preach the gospel
Hmm.
and and gather members to his flock to a church.
I like that, man. That's deep, man. It's a very deep and spiritual message within that, man. And for anybody out there who's listening, you too could be an author too. Mr. Ricketts, Anthony, is definitely talking about his ups and downs, things he's been through, but just not only being an author, more than that. So it's definitely something you should check out. If because even I get intimidated about writing a book. I'm like, I don't know. Y'all pass the information over to me for like the publisher, and I'm like, so it's definitely something I'm thinking about, man. Real quick, man, two more questions. What advice would you give, someone that's afraid to tell their story?
Don't be afraid to tell your story. If it's through poetry, if it's through expression. Don't be
Hmm.
afraid to tell your story. You know, your story can be a few sentences long. It could be an expression that you're feeling. It could
Right.
be through anything, but never be afraid, because what you put out to the world, either to your social media or word of mouth, people will receive it the way they want to receive it. It may even help someone. You know, I always hear, if you smile if you smile at a stranger or say good morning to a stranger, you might have just made their day. The day could
Hmm.
have been going off to a bad start, and you smiling at them or saying hi, how you doing? That's a light. That's a light that they probably, you know, probably saved them from the darkness.
Yo,
You know,
that's so true, man. I've always heard, man. Uh, don't ever be afraid to tell your story because you don't know what you have been through that other people need to hear, right? Like it could be some people are like, I've never been through nothing. I ain't go through anything. But guess what? There's some people who haven't had such a violent experience in life or such a, riveting experience. There's people who have had just, they might think they have normal, everyday, mundane things they're experiencing, but there's people that are going through that. There's avenues for that as well. There's people who grew up with everything and still wanted to change their life and do more and become more. So, and somebody is listening and watching that story and can relate to you. Someone's going through heartache and pain, and you feel like nobody can relate to that story. And someone is listening to you, waiting for you to tell your story because your story is going to impact them in such a, mesmerizing way, man. So,
that's right.
man, thank you for telling that, man. My last question is, where can they get the book, man?
Amazon.com. You know,
Hmm.
they can type in Life's Evening Sun,
Hmm.
Amazon.com, and you will definitely see it. Also, part two is also out. Part
Okay.
two, part two is called In the Wake of the Evening Sun, also
Hmm.
on Amazon.com. And part three is coming out in 3 weeks, which is called Final Embrace of the Evening Sun. This will be the very last book of the Evening Sun trilogy.
Let me ask this: is Ezra in there? Is he? Is what is
No,
Ezra doing?
no. Ezra was just a part of part one. A lot of people,
You hear that, Kiana? He was in part one. He he served
a,
no purpose.
a lot, yeah. That's a. It's funny you mentioned that. Also, a lot of people said, "Why did you even put Ezra in there? He's only in there for a bit, and then he's not even heard of again." But once again, I put Ezra in there because he was growing up. He was also a real person, but just changed the name, of course.
Yeah.
Ezra was a real person, and he was not much of a friend. I thought he was, but
Wow.
he was more like a a trickster, and
Mm,
he just made his way in. Uh, Friends with Esther, who's also a real person, made his way
mm.
made the way through Esther to try to get with her. But I also added in him in the book because he was like a very short page or a paragraph in my life. So
Okay.
he got what he deserved in there for a moment.
I hear that, man. Hey, listen, man. Enough said, bro. Listen, I thank you so much for showing up to the Mental Wealth Academy, man. Here we, like I said before, we normalize therapy, emotional literacy, and just mental wellness, and we cultivate that through grounding conversations and education, man. And what you go through, what you experience, somebody can learn from that. So don't ever be afraid to share your story, right? Where can they follow you at?
You can follow me on Instagram at Jax Lyrics. That's JAYXLYRIX.
Hmm.
Jack Lyrics.
Hmm.
Instagram. You can follow me. You can always see postings of my book, postings
Hmm.
of different character posters of my book, and where you can also link in my bio on Instagram as well to support me.
Like, yes, yes. Uh, I want to say you could follow me as well with Life with Halston. You can also follow me on my YouTube because this will be on YouTube, Mental Wealth Academy 8. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Mental Wealth Academy 8. You can follow me there on YouTube. Help me out. Let's get these subscribers up so we can do more beautiful things like this and actually, get this out to the rest of the community and inspire young people to do amazing things. Man, Mr. Ricketts, Anthony, you got a couple of friends in there who gave you shout outs as well, man. So
Yes,
salute
yes.
to your peoples coming through. That's definitely big. Salute to my community coming through. Hopefully we can get this bigger and better and do more amazing things, man. But I appreciate you for being my first guest. If you and anybody else know somebody that need to be highlighted, please contact me. It's all good. Much love, man. I wish you nothing but success on your book, brother. Any final words? I want you to leave with a final word, man. Final word. Either a quote, something you learned. Final word.
What I've learned is to just never give up. 'Cause that's what I did. I gave up on advertising my book. I felt I wasn't getting the support that I should have been getting, but just my friends like Paul and other people that said to me, if one or two people buy your book, even three, you're getting support. You're getting support.
I
So
know
I'm going
all
to stick
about
with that.
that.
I'm going to stick
That's
with that.
right.
So thank you.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Man, no problem, brother. Well, it's good to talk to you, man. Kiana, you up next. Thank you for the love and peace. I'll see you later,
Later.
man.
Bye.
Yep, yep.